In today's interview, we talk about going from that initial aha moment of product development to doing a small test launch to later getting exposure on the Today Show, and then how to grow your business from there. You'll really enjoy the stories that this husband and wife team share about their product marketing journey.
Are you looking for new ways to make your sales grow? You've tried other podcasts, but they don't seem to know. Harvest the growth potential of your product or service as we share stories and strategies that'll make your competitors nervous. Now, here's the host of the Harvest Growth Podcast, John LeClaire.
Welcome back to the show. I'm really excited to have two guests on with us today, Tomoko and Kevin Nadolny. They are the co-founders of a company called Runbell. I'll let them describe exactly what this product is, but when you'll hear it, it's genius. It's one of those problem-solving products. As you hear it, you'll say, why didn't I think of that? I can't imagine this didn't exist before. These two co-founders invented the idea a few years ago. So let's start our interview, Tomoko and Kevin, by talking first about what is Runbell and how did you develop this product?
Runbell is something that you wear on your fingers, and it's just like a bicycle bell for runners. So just like bicycles have a bell where they can warn others of their approach because they're coming faster than other people, and they're usually coming from behind where you don't see them. Runners have the exact same problem in dense cities or on isolated trails where you can't exactly see everything in front of you. Using some sound cue to let people know you're coming. It's automatic. People hear a bell, they know something usually they think a bike is coming. And that's what Runbell is. Runbell is a wearable bell for runners. The way we came up with it was really when we were both living in Tokyo, and we're husband and wife, and we just had our first son. And that's a huge lifestyle change, right? All of a sudden you have all the free time in the world to do everything you want to do just on your own schedule. And then now all of a sudden you have no time and everything is, focused on raising your kids, raising your baby, especially. And so how do you fit in your workout routine into your daily schedule? So that's when I was like, well, I'm going to keep running, but I'm going to run from the office to home. So I usually took the train home. It took about an hour from door to door. And instead of that, how about I run 5 miles in less than an hour, or about the same with changing, and use that same commute time, but for my exercise. So that's what I started to do. And Tokyo is just a really crazy city. It's a lot of fun, a lot of energy, and a lot of people on the streets. And tons of lights, tons of ways to get home without having to cross cars and traffic, but a lot of people sharing the sidewalk with you. And usually it wasn't an issue. Like usually the sidewalks are pretty large, but every once in a while you get in those bottlenecks and you just want to say, hey, I'm coming through. And a friend of mine in the States was actually making fun of me. He's like, you should try running with this. And he showed a Japanese guy using a bicycle bell walking around Tokyo. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to try that. And I took a bicycle bell and I put it on my fingers and I started to run with that. That's how I got started. Obviously running with a bicycle bell is not nearly as convenient as running as something that fits on your fingers, designed for your fingers. But that was the initial inspiration was I started running with a giant bicycle bell on my finger and tested it out that way to see if it would actually work. And of course it did.
And it's a friendly noise, I think, that people are used to. It grabs their attention hearing a ringing bell. Like you said, they're assuming it's a bike coming up behind them maybe at first, but it grabs your attention enough to make you think to turn around, but it's not rude or in their face. I love the concept. It makes so much sense because I've lived in near downtown Chicago, or just on the south side, and I lived in downtown Boston, and not quite like Tokyo by any means in terms of crowds, but I love to run, or when I visit New York City, I love to run, just the energy of running in these crowds, but it's hard. You're constantly stopping, slowing down. And a big part of it is you've got people in front of you. You have to get their attention, and it gets really old really fast to say, on your left, on your left. I almost feel more rude saying that, even though of course you're doing it to try to help the whole situation. So I love this concept that it's much more, I would say, friendly in that situation. So yeah, great invention. So that's how it all started back in the day. And then an early part of your launch or success was on Kickstarter. Can you talk a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, we can talk about how we first got to Kickstarter, because Kickstarter, you really need to have a prototype. and like a manufacturing plan. And so Kickstarter is a great structure because you can go and look and see what all the other successful projects are doing and say, okay, I need to do these steps first. We needed to have a functional prototype. We needed to have some manufacturing. We needed to have a price so that we could charge people and know how much it's going to cost us to make so we don't lose money. And so one of the like really fortuitous things that happened to us is we went on Amazon, ordered a couple bells that we liked a lot from Amazon Japan. And when they came in the mail, we found them and we're like, okay, who makes these bells? Like, we know they're from Japanese manufacturers, but where in Japan are they made? Because we like this manufacturer better than that one because they have the better style, better quality. And so I was at home trying to decipher the Japanese. I can read and write and speak Japanese, but not nearly as good as her, of course. And so it took me a long time to figure out where's their manufacturing facility?
Yeah, because for us, the musical tone is very important. We don't want to annoy pedestrians by like dinging it, like you don't get out of my way. We don't want a message like that. We just nicely like share the road. So we needed to pursue the quality of the sound. Yeah. So we found the manufacturer. And then, we just went to all the, information written on backside of the product and then Google it. And then what we found was like that manufacturer was actually literally down the street from where we lived. Like
in Tokyo. Crazy Tokyo.
And then even the, package said that it's made in Osaka. It's not in Tokyo, but the manufacturer actually located in Tokyo. And then, we said, oh my goodness, maybe we really should do this. This is really meant to be. Yeah. So next day I really made a phone call to the guy and that's how we started.
It's true serendipity, or I think you guys call it fateful encounters. And it happens so often in business. And in a lot of the interviews that I've done over the years, talking to many founders, inventors like yourselves, there is a commonality that there's this serendipitous or fateful moment that turned out to be a turning point. And it really varies what that moment is. It's not predictable, but it's all about noticing, I think, and taking advantage of it, right? So that aha that you felt, I think, like, hey, okay, this is an answer. We've got to try something out. And since then, we'll get into the success you've had since then. It's been really a real starting point for you. I rewind a little bit to my business. So we've been around doing video marketing for now 17 years, a long time. And it's our business in the early days. We focused on product launches for the first many years of this, and specifically on TV here in the US. And TV infomercials are a very common way, or certainly were, in terms of starting a new product campaign. The world has changed over the past few years, but kind of right at the beginning of that change, we had a moment to let's test some Facebook ads, right? And to be honest, this is back like the very early days of Facebook. They didn't work. It was really tough. I don't think they'd figured out Facebook, meaning on their back end back in the day, many years ago.
Yeah.
But we kept testing, and there was that one moment, that fateful moment that we had an aha, or tremendous results right away. And that for us was a complete change in the course of our business, where we still do national TV launches. We got a couple coming up in January, in a couple of months, but most of our business has really moved to this digital side. And it really came back to this one success early on. And then it's about taking advantage of it, right? So you guys did that too. It's finding that, and you got to run with it, right? You can't just, these fateful encounters, these moments don't just happen to us and like, hey, we've won. It's about the start of the journey, but going, maybe a course change.
Yeah, fueled us, really. Like, believed we can do this,
Yeah, absolutely. So, and then we talk about the success you had on Kickstarter. How did that launch go?
The launch was, what was it? There was like a 45-day campaign. And for the first, 20 to 30, 25 days or something was pretty like, oh, I don't know if we're going to make it. Like, we're like halfway to our goal. Maybe we set our goal too ambitious, product price too low. So we need so many backers. We needed hundreds of backers to reach our goal, which was pretty ambitious for our first time, like we didn't have an email list to work off. We didn't really have a lot to, set us up for success like some big companies do, or maybe how we would approach Kickstarter now. We have a customer base. So we had a little bit of, maybe blind ambition at the beginning, but we started to hit off on just like a few media picked us up because it's a really unique product. Does this really work? Was a big question. So people were debating it. A lot of people didn't like us, which created a debate, something to talk about. So people are like, oh, this is the dumbest idea. Don't ding at people. And then people are like, no, like, you don't understand. I have that situation too. It works. This is a great idea. This is genius. And we had that back and forth. And then a few people from like Outside Magazine and some other big publications came out and said, this is legit. This is a great idea. And then it just exploded off of that. And so we ended up ending our campaign with 700 backers, 37 countries, and $25,000. And we're like, that's success. We got this. But as you said, that was step one of many steps down the road. So that allowed us to do our initial mass production run, our initial, we did a lot of stuff after that. So
never knew shipping globally, like shipping like 37 different countries is so hard. So yeah,
we had a lot of plans and we pulled it off to all those different countries. But yeah, adding in like Saudi Arabia was a tough one that just never arrived. There was a few that were that was, by the time we ended up shipping, we had 1,000 backers at that point. And so we spent hours and hours packing it ourselves.
We talk a lot about testing, and I think crowdfunding like Kickstarter is one way to do that. There's so many other ways, right? Whether it's like selling at a trade show or a flea market or whatever, but that important timing of early stage launch, of testing, getting feedback before you invest too much of your own money into this, right? Get it start small and prove the concept and then grow from there. And that's, one thing, of course, that happened. Of course, it helps with funding, right? To build out that first manufacturing run as well. What came next though? So after this success was proven or tested on Kickstarter, what was next for your business?
That was an excellent question for us at the moment. So our campaign ended and we just got all this great publicity. We were having tons of backers every day, like coming in. And then when it ends, it's just over. And we didn't have a website set up. We didn't know e-commerce. We didn't know how to collect payments. And that was kind of before Shopify, or maybe when Shopify was just getting off the ground. A lot of people hadn't figured out how to like make that as a service to small businesses to collect payments online. So there was a lot of learning done really quickly. Like immediately after, we're like, we need to figure this out immediately. So we did find some way of collecting payments online, like safely, without, all the credit card theft that happened in the early days of the internet. So setting up our website page was a huge endeavor. And we went through many iterations before we landed on Shopify. I think it's the best, or at least for me. And then we were also like, how do we keep getting the word out? And luckily, we had a lot of earned media where people saw the product. They saw the previous, like every media article that was written kind of like built up to the next one. So then that introduced more media to our products. And they're like, well, we want to write about that too. So one thing kept leading to another, where we ended up being on the Today Show a few months later. And so we had the website, we had a way of keep making sales. And then all of a sudden we're on the Today Show with like on national TV in the US, completely unpaid for. It's just all earned media where we're just going along for the ride. And that was a really exciting time.
Yeah, it can be a real breakthrough in a business to get that, especially massive national coverage. Over the years, we've had a lot of clients be on the Today Show and Good Morning America and similar things. And it can be a direction change or course change for your business to really drive an increase in sales, right? That massive exposure kind of starts it off. How did that impact your business from that point forward? So that was, let's call that maybe the first massive hit. Like you've got a bunch of them along the way, but from going from the Today Show, how did that help you in your business going forward?
You want to talk about it? Or it wasn't necessarily the breakthrough that we were hoping for. It wasn't necessarily we were on the Today Show, we got all this free press, and then people just came onto our website like crazy. It was a short period of time where it lasted, and it slowly starts to taper off. So how do you keep that momentum going year after year? And now we've been in business for almost 10 years. Next year is going to be our 10th year, which is crazy. So finding that momentum and finding that secret sauce to, like, find new customers and make a profit off of that. I would say we're still struggling with what's our secret sauce of doing that? Being on all these great TV shows wasn't, it didn't change the trajectory so much that all of a sudden we were like set and we're golden. I would say it almost, set us up for higher expectations where we tried to scale too fast and we realized it didn't happen. So we had to pull back. So a lot of that was we were like, yes, we're on this, we're going to scale up. And then boom, it starts to slow down too much and we haven't figured out how to keep it going. Another thing was exposure also led to copycats, where we had people in China like copying us and sending off, they photocopy our packaging and they send it just as us. It's not our product. It doesn't look like it. And it's not the same quality, but they use our brand and they leverage off of it. We do have a patent and we were able to successfully drive most of them off the market. But that was, as we were successful, we had other challenges. And so it's been an up and down experience since then, I suppose.
But when we talk about like a copycat, it's kind of weird to say, but welcome them. Because when somebody copy you, which means you made right thing. If it doesn't worth copying, it's not worth copying, then nobody copy. But people started to copy and then just to make exact same thing what we do. It's kind of cool. It just reminded me of like the story of Coco Chanel. When she, of course, she's a fabulous designer, and then all the fashion designers copied her, and then she said, let them copy, because the copycats make my stuff more genuine and then stand out. It's okay with me. I was like, that's so cool. So I just try to keep our cool, say, okay, it's okay, because we have that quality sound. Of course, we bought some of them, the copycats, but they can't make the same quality sound. This is really crafted in Japan, the Japanese craftsmanship. Well, because I'm Japanese, so I'm really proud of it. So, yep.
Yeah, I think that's very true. It's a good way to think of copycats, because really every successful product business is going to generate copycats, no matter your patent protection, no matter what you're doing to protect yourself. It's just the nature of it. But it is a testament to success. It means, okay, it's selling, it's working. The fact that you want to fight against it as much as you possibly can, but it is unfortunately one of the things that comes along with a successful product launch, for sure. So you mentioned, you talked about kind of continuing growth. I want to rewind a little bit after getting national exposure, because we've dealt with that a lot with a lot of our clients. And just for the benefit of our audience, one of the ways that you can drive continued growth is something controllable, right? So one of the beauties of earned media like the Today Show, it's fantastic. It's free, drives a ton of exposure. It's just hard to scale, right? It's hard to guarantee, okay, we've done this once. You can't just buy it again, right? You've got to earn it again. And you've got a great product like yours, you're going to get those opportunities, but you can't control them as much. So it's getting that combination with earned media and paid media together. Now you can scale it, you can control it. And that's one way to go forward. I know you guys have done some of that too. I just want to clarify for our audience.
Yes, and then, yeah, definitely. We felt like we are becoming just a one-hit wonder. After Kickstarter, yeah, we did it. And then all those media, like from US, France, and then Scandinavia, Japan, and then all those different countries worldwide, that's what we felt, talking about us. But then just a one-hit wonder. So we needed to come up with next steps.
And that's another way of addressing copycats is you innovate, you keep innovating.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually had a big lifestyle move where we gave up the neon lit streets of Tokyo and we came to a much smaller and still a big city of Portland, Oregon, but quite a bit different. We call it like the trip from neon lit Tokyo to moonlit Portland, where all of a sudden we found we're running in the dark a lot.
Not many people. No use of Runbell.
Oh, there's use of Runbell. We got trails and we got like the urban paths along the waterfront. So some places to use it. But a lot of the times where we were running, it was so dark. All the streets were dark. Cars were coming by.
Yeah, sunset's very early here. Pacific
Yeah,
Northwest, like 4:30 in midwinter. So yeah.
So we're like, we got our next product idea. You know, you need to be heard and you also need to be seen. Like these two go together. So let's create something that not just allows runners to see in front of them, but can also alert others that they're approaching using light instead of sound. That's the basic idea. And then we want to build on this ring concept. So we have a ring for Runbell. It wears on your ring. So let's take that same idea. Instead of a bell, let's put a wearable light on your hand. Like we've run with flashlights before. That was kind of like the first thing we did. That was, you know, the fallback is this. Let me just grab my bike. I got my bike light and I was going to grab it and run with that. Same with a bike bell, you know. I like to bike as well. We could also put a headlamp on it and run with that. A lot of people choose to do that, but I really preferred something in my hand where I could use it to shine where I wanted to or alert people where I wanted to. Same with Tomoko. And so we wanted to have this idea. Let's take that same bike light, the same concept as Runbell, and let's put it on our hands. And then how do you make it compact, ergonomic, easy to use? That took a lot of product development and testing. We again went back to 3D printing and kind of 3D printed a mold, got some electrical wiring, put it together, you know, so okay. And started running with that, testing it with friends, running hood to coast with it. You know, hood to coast is an all night, like 30-hour, it takes us 30 hours running event. And that was, I think, launching a new product really reinvigorated the whole company. So we had those ups and downs. It's like, okay, now we can see the vision. We need to keep innovating. And we again launched on Kickstarter. We again launched on we launched for the first time in Japan on Makwake, which is another Japanese crowdfunding. And now manufacturing and production of that is a whole side story. COVID hit, all sorts of obstacles hit. Our manufacturing partner went bankrupt in the middle right after we sent them money to open the molds. We had to chase a lot of people down. But I think a lot of entrepreneurs always talk about those struggles that they hit, and then, you know, you can easily just give up and say, I'm out. Like that was a lot of work. It was fun, but it takes like real grit to keep going at it. And I think like grit is like the buzzword. So a lot of people say it, but I think it's true because we just kept going at it, and we're successful. And
I've heard you guys compare that grit, that difficulty, which every business has to pass through. It's part of it, right? It makes the journey at the end of it a lot more fun, a lot more meaningful, et cetera. But I've heard you guys compare it to running a marathon, which is obviously very fitting for a business that deals with runners directly. But how do you make that comparison? Like running a business is like running a marathon, especially for those in our audience that maybe haven't done that before.
Exactly. That's how I feel. But John, you are also a marathon finisher. That's so amazing.
I think I hold the record for the slowest marathon.
But you can't go out in a marathon and run as fast as you can and expect to finish. Like you run fast and you're pacing yourself and you're pushing yourself to your limits. But you also have to recognize I still have a long ways to go. So pacing yourself, understanding it's going to be a long race. And then you also hit the wall at like mile 18. I remember mile 18 where I hit the wall and I was just like, I was out of gas. I was out of juice. And I didn't really know about fueling and salts on my first marathon. I was just like, I'm young. I'm just going to run.
Yeah, but the people cheer you up, really.
Yeah, running
Like,
in Japan is the best.
Like a lot of people cheer up runners as, it's the same way, like running business. You feel like, oh, maybe this is it. But then all those moments, like customers reach out to us with such a sweet, lovely feedback on our products, like, hey, I love your products because we did that, we do that. It's just fueling us. It's really fuel in the same way, like running marathon and running business. That's
I love that comparison. And, you talk about hitting the wall, and it happens to pretty much everybody, right? Even the elite runners, et cetera. And I think back to my first marathon was the Boston Marathon, which I ran at Bandit. I didn't qualify back this is like the 90s, a long time ago. You could run it just like, and half the people did it without a number back. It was very different back then. But the beauty of that race is there's people along the way. I love how you talked about that, right? And I think when people are cheering for you, even in the hardest times, you can make it through. And to contrast that, a marathon I didn't finish, I was sick, but also it was, I think, more difficult. It was in New Mexico, beautiful, like white sands, and then this long straightaway with nobody on the sides of the road, right? It was that much more difficult because you're completely alone. And I think a lot of times in business, we feel that way, right? It's about the nice thing, as opposed to a marathon. In a real marathon, you can't just manufacture a crowd, right? But in a business, you can find those people that are going to be your cheering section. You will. The other difference is a lot of times the easy crowds in running a business are not cheering you on. They're saying, you'll never do this. It's the naysayers or whatever, because they're not used to it.
Yeah.
Finding a cheering section that is positively along your side in that journey is necessary, I think. So I personally love that comparison.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yes.
I want to jump back to one thing and just reiterate. And then after this, I'll give you guys the chance if there's anything I didn't ask you that you want to talk about. Before that, though, you talked about innovation. And for the benefit of our audience, I love what you've done, and I want to clarify something. So when you started with Runbell, you have a product that is relatively a niche product, right? It's for runners, and it's specifically for runners in certain situations, in the beginning in urban areas and around dark corners and paths, that kind of thing. Relatively a niche, a ton of runners in the world, of course. And then what I love, and what was a common and recommended approach in innovation, is as you expand your line, well, now you've got this, it's easier to launch a niche product, right? It's easier to find people that have a passion for what you're doing when it's a small niche focused audience, as opposed to something that works for everybody, right? Because it's a cluttered world out there. But the nice thing is, once you've got that audience, now you've sold so many of these over the years, you come out with the torchlight, right? So the light version. Now all of a sudden, it's great for runners. It's great for all of your audience, and you can market to all those, but also an expanded audience. I mean, this works for everything, for any kind of walking your dog outside, a lot of areas where the Runbell might not work, but as well, potentially. So that's a great, I would say, piece of advice for our audience to pay attention as you think about expanding your line of products. Start small, start with that niche, a real focus. And once you've got that, now you can expand and go gradually broader with bigger audience, which means potentially bigger revenue opportunities as you continue to grow the business. Anyways, want to mention that, but is there anything else that comes to mind that I didn't ask you that you think could be helpful for our audience?
When I listen to, I really listen to most of your podcasts, John. And then I found myself kind of left out because, I'm not that big. Like most of your guests were so successful already. And then maybe they call themselves startups. But, hey, I am the startup. I am really like so humble. And then I feel like, hey, if you were talking about $1 million sales or those kind of things, that really overwhelmed me. So if I can connect to some of the listeners of yours, like someone like us, like really have a good idea, maybe even haven't started to manufacture anything, but thinking someday, one day, I really want to do something. Maybe those people can relate to us better. And then, but I don't know how to address, but it's just wanted to message them. Don't be afraid. You get there slowly but surely. Don't try to, I don't know. It's just, I really want to message to those people encourage them. Your idea definitely should be known by people. So let's do it. How can we do it? How can we message that? I don't know.
It's encouragement, right? It's great to hear from people like you who have had a great success to talk about that early part of the journey, because we never look at that. Like, that's why I love doing this show. Is a lot of our interviews, we talk about the early days, which are hard, and frankly, struggles continue. Right, running any business is hard. They're just different trials along the way, but in the very early days, you wonder, is this ever going to make it? Is it ever going to turn that corner? And we just need that encouragement, I think. So it's great to hear from you to encourage our audience. And as I said, everybody listening should find their cheering section. Hopefully today's interview helped, but if not, or either way, find people personally in your lives that can truly be your cheering section. So great advice. Thank you. I do want to encourage our audience, please check out their website, which is runbell.com. It's run-bell.com. Anybody who's driving, it's in the show notes. Always go back to and find it later on. Right now, there's a site-wide 20% discount on the website that runs through the end of 2023. So if you're looking for a gift for a runner, or the light for anybody who spends time in the outdoors, both great gift ideas. So run-bell.com. Well, I really appreciate your time. Both of you were fantastic today. So thank you so much for sharing your story with our audience.
Thank you so much, John.
Thank you for having us.
Be sure to check out run-bell.com to learn more. And be sure to check out harvestgrowth.com to see other episodes we've recorded. If you'd like to take a shortcut and learn the process that we've used to launch hundreds of products since 2007, you can download our secret sauce, our product marketing campaign cheat sheet, right from harvestgrowthsecretsauce.com. Or go to our website, harvestgrowth.com. You can set up an appointment right from the site to speak directly with a member of the Harvest Growth team in a free one-on-one consultation.